What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another weekly Leveling Up episode here at GSD Mode Studios. So today, I'm here to talk to you about being obsessed, becoming obsessed with mastery inside your life and the results that will help you create. The reality is you can never create any high level of success. You can never become a super achiever getting shit done, the top % of your craft or whatever it is that you want to accomplish, to go out there and become a champion, if you will, without being obsessed with mastery. So I'm going to dive in on what this is, what this looks like, and how to be more effective at doing it. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here at GSD Mode Studios, where every week I share new top real estate agent and entrepreneur interviews, along with tips that I'm personally doing inside my business that have allowed me to become one of the top real estate agents and team leaders on the planet. Check us out at gsdmode.com, where you can see more free, great content, tips, interviews, resources, trainings, and more that will help you massively grow your real estate business. Also, make sure to check out my personal mentorship coaching program at 90daymastery.com. This is for those of you wanting to create a truly successful real estate business that pays you the money you want, as well as gives you the time and freedom to live a life worth living. This is hands down the best, most effective, and most affordable real estate coaching program that exists out there. Thank you so much for all of your support. Now, let's dive on into today's content. All right, so again, we are here today to talk about being obsessed with mastery. So let's break this down. Let's first break down what obsessed is, what it means. I think you might be saying to yourself, oh shit, I already know what this means. Let's just talk about it for a second, right? Because you may not. Then let's talk about mastery, what that is and why you got to combine these two together if you want to create greatness. And this applies to anything and everything inside your life. It doesn't matter what the fuck it is, whether it's your real estate business or any business venture out there, relationships, health, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is, hobby, it's irrelevant, right? So let's first talk about becoming obsessed. Now, I know obsession has gotten coined into being a negative, but this is just what happens with society, right? Society, which is filled up, our society exists of 99% of the human beings on the planet, of society, is built up of those that accept mediocrity inside their life. They're okay with being average. They're okay with mediocrity. So what they have to do, though, is because they don't want to self-sabotage themselves or beat themselves up, they come up with things and ways and sayings and different belief systems and concepts to justify their own decisions and make themselves feel okay with the shitty life that they're choosing to go out there and operate and live, right? So then it becomes, oh, dude, that person, I mean, they're just obsessed, man. And it becomes this like bad stigma. Anybody that's obsessed is like it's a bad personality trait. It's a bad stigma, right? It's like not too long ago, I'm sitting there working out at the gym in the morning, my wife and I, and some, older gentleman comes up to us and starts talking to us and starts asking me about business and going through all of this. And the dude just starts like lecturing me. He's like, well, man, you shouldn't work so hard. You got to slow down. You got to enjoy life. And he's talking about like, he's retired and what his life looks like. Now that guy, he was, even though it looked like he was giving a lecture to me, which is irritating. It was cutting out my workout time. Plus, I just fucking hate unsolicited advice. But he was giving it to me anyway. But that whole conversation wasn't about me, right? That was him trying to justify his own reasoning and his actions and decisions to abandon his own dreams and goals. Right? That whole conversation was about him and trying to make himself okay, sold on the fact that he gave up on what he wanted to go out there and create. That's what all that was about. Right? So often when we hear this negative shit, it's more about them, not us. Right? But you don't want to study them. You don't want to listen to them. You want to study and listen to those that create greatness. And the reason that I say that, and I'm saying that to you here, is that are watching this, is because you wouldn't be watching this series if you didn't want to go out there and create greatness. Right? If you wanted to live an average, mediocre life, you wouldn't fucking be watching anything here at GSD Mode, right? And if you are okay with mediocrity, you want to create a mediocre life, then this isn't a place for you to be. There's other shit, go fucking watch, I don't know, some cat videos or some shit, right? Whatever it is that people watch on YouTube, right? I'm never on YouTube, never watching it other than to review my own shit and see how we're performing. But anyway, with that being said, when you're studying the greats, like we got to stick in our lane, right? Like if I want to study the greats, I got to surround myself with those that are great and study the greats, not study all these other fuckers over here, right? But go study the greats and show and it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's music, whether it's sports, doesn't matter, whether it's business, they are obsessed, right? They're fully consumed. So obsession is just what controls your thoughts. Right? So 24/7, they become obsessed, obviously not 24/7 because we're sleeping, maybe they're still dreaming about this shit, but their wheels are turning about making their dreams and passions a reality, right? I mean, think about, I don't watch many sports, but let's just say, think about like a LeBron James or a Tom Brady, how obsessed they are with their craft, right? Do you think that all throughout the day, not just when it comes to practice, but when it comes to the game time, I heard at one point, the fuck's his name, Peyton Manning, who was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Yes, supposedly, whatever, right? So that, he'd get in his between practice and game time, his 60, 80 hours, whatever it equated to. But then when he was out of practice at his own home, he would wear his football helmet everywhere, never take it off. From when he woke up in the morning to when he went to bed, it was just on him. So he just got used to never operated life without this helmet on his head. And then just watching, he'd get home and then just be obsessed with watching the tape, still this helmet on. Everything was through that. That's a motherfucker that's obsessed. But look, he goes down in the history books as one of the greatest to ever play that sport, right? And I'm not saying that all this has to be applied to business, right? Apply this to every aspect of your life that is important to you, but get very clear on what matters most to you. On your deathbed, when you are reflecting back on your life, what are the things you would regret and what are the things that you wouldn't regret? And then cut out all the bullshit that you want. I'm never going to get involved in fantasy football. Maybe that's your thing, maybe you're doing it, but you're never gonna, and that's okay. I'm not gonna judge anybody that does it, but for me, it's not me. I know for a fact on my fucking deathbed, I will not be like, oh shit, I wish I would have joined more fantasy football leagues, right? I'm not gonna be like, I wish I would have watched more football games. I don't wanna be a spectator. I'm not gonna watch a fucking game with a bunch of dude in tights running around, tackling each other with a leather ball. That doesn't intrigue me. Right now, if I was playing that sport and wanted to go pro in that sport, I would spend the time investing the time in that. Right? But be very intentional with what controls your thoughts. If you want to create greatness in your life, make a list of the things that you want to create greatness in. And then anything that you need to do to become the person to create that greatness and become obsessed with those things. All right, well, if I want to grow a great business and be great with my family and all these things that maybe I want to do, well, hey man, health comes on top of that list. I got to also be obsessed with my health. I can't have the energy to build a good business. Number one, if I'm not healthy, don't have the energy, that becomes very difficult. Number two, I got to last, right? Building businesses, it's a fucking marathon, not a sprint. Right? It's not just, I'm going to go create success for 3, 4, 5 years, decades after decades, right? It might take me 40, 50 years, 60 years in business to eventually accomplish the overall goals that I want to accomplish in business because I have some big goals. Well, I got to make sure that time lasts and I can stick around for that time frame. Right? Hey, well, I want to be a great father to my kids and all of these different things, right? I make a list of what those are. And then that's where my obsession goes to those things. And I'm just gonna cut out all the other noise, right? So be obsessed, extremely important. Then when it comes to mastery, so then now we're talking about being obsessed with mastery, and this becomes really important. Mastery only happens through repetition. Let's just say you're gonna read a book, right? You read the book one time. Now here's what happens when most people read a book. Their mind's somewhere else. They're not retaining. It's been proven by NASA that the average human being only retains 10% of what you learn or read the first time around. So 90% of that, 7 or 8 hours you just had in that fucking book was wasted. Right? Only 10% of that do you retain. And most people still aren't taking action on it. Right? So if I just read this once, and every time I get a book recommendation from people, I always ask them a couple questions. I'll thank them for giving me the recommendation, but then I'll ask them hey, what were the 3 top biggest takeaways that you took away from that book? And then of those, what was the biggest thing that you did, that you took action on, that you implemented, and what impact has that had in your world? And it's always looking at a deer in headlights. They're always looking what the fuck? They weren't expecting that. Right? So, but the common answer that I get is, dude, I don't really know, man. I mean, I read it. I remember it being a good book. But what they're saying is, dude, it just made them feel warm and fuzzy. Jim Rohn said, tickled their eardrums a little bit. That's all it did, right? It's no different than entertainment at that point. It's just mental masturbation. They didn't do anything with it. Well, if I want to read, number one, I'm going to identify the book that maybe solves a problem that, again, I'm obsessed with. of solving. So I want to make sure I'm spending time to identify the book, who wrote the book, what's the success that they've had. Right? I don't have time to read all the books, so I got to be very careful. Like I got to find the needle in the haystack of the right book. I got to make sure that I'm finding the right book. So I'll spend more time researching finding the right book than I do even reading the damn book, right? But then from there, I'm going to read it. Then I'm going to reread it. And as I'm reading it and going through it, I'm taking notes and highlighting on the ahas. I'm filling out another journal on those notes and what I'm going to take action and implement. And I might end up reading the book that I want to read that helps me solve the problem that I'm looking to master and that I'm obsessed with. I might end up reading that book a dozen different times, right? But then I got to make sure that I execute on it, right? So when we get, and this is called the disease of knowledge, right? Was when we find ourselves saying, oh, I already know this, right? So it becomes 3 important questions to always ask yourself. All right, so if I already know it, number 1, am I doing it? Number 2, have I mastered it? And then number 3, do my results show and prove that I've mastered it? And if you can't answer those 3 things, you haven't fucking heard it enough, right? See, mastery only happens in repetition. Coach John Wooden, the greatest collegiate coach to ever exist, who was the NCAA basketball coach for UCLA, every single practice, like the first practice of the year. Now, these would be the returning champions. The dude won more championships than anybody else like ever, right? First practice, all his players would do. He'd have his players lace up their shoes, put their shoes on, put their socks on, put their shoes on, take their shoes off, take their socks off, repeat. Now, these are repeating champions that have been playing ball their whole life. And you're like, coach, do we know how to put on our shoes? And he would always say that, hey, success happens through repetition, right? And you gotta repeat the fundamentals, the basics. If you don't know how to put on your socks and something, and that's just one of the basics. That's just one of the fundamentals, the foundations. Making sure your socks are on right, making sure your shoes are right. He's like, if you don't do that, if you slip, if you get a mistake, if you haven't mastered that art, and you get a blister on the floor as a result of it, and you can't give your all on the court, you can't perform at the best version of yourself, you no longer an asset to this organization, you become a liability. Do you want to be a liability or do you want to be an asset? If you want to be an asset, he probably didn't say these exact words, but it's shut the fuck up and keep doing what I tell you to do. Yeah, right? So that's what I'm talking about, being obsessed with mastery. Truly master something, right? And again, when you master it, you're doing it, you understand it, you're doing it, and your results show and prove that you're doing it. So if you're, let's just say in the real estate business, which I know a lot of you are, right? Like, it's like, okay, hey, if you're getting asked to speak on stages, so maybe I want to master the open house process. Yeah, right? Okay, well, like, I'm going to be obsessed with mastering that process. The right house, the right neighborhood, making sure that my marketing is right for it to maximize the people that come through, making sure that my sign-in process is optimized and master that process. Then I'm going to master the tour process, then the appointment setting process, and then the follow-up process. And I'm going to master and become obsessed with it until I get the world-class results that I want. Well, now at this point, right, and this has been taking place for over a decade now, I've been asked to speak on so many damn stages, been published in so many damn magazines and on radio and podcasts. I've had tens of thousands of real estate agents all over the planet come through my mega open house training to learn from something that I've mastered. So I'm sharing that not to brag about myself, but that's when you know you mastered something. When you have tens of thousands of people in your art, in your craft, looking to you, wanting to come to you and learn from the results that you got, at least in that component of your life or your business, then I'd say you mastered something, right? But if you're not the best of the best, at least in your marketplace, you haven't fucking mastered it. You need to become more obsessed with mastering your craft, with mastering whatever it is that you want. So again, becoming obsessed with mastery is the true key, and just cut out the noise. The rest of the shit doesn't matter. Quit watching the news. Doesn't matter who the fuck the president is, vice president is, what's going on. Yeah, right. That will have no impact on your world. Yeah, right. Just cut out all that other bullshit and stay only obsessed with. Again, obsession is what controls your thoughts. Mastery is taking that obsession and channeling it into the right things that you can master to get the results that you want in the areas of your life that you want to go out there and create success. And this is really the core to leveling up. So anyway, I hope you guys found this leveling episode helpful, useful. Make sure to check us out at gsdmode.com, where you can see more leveling up tips just like this one, as well as my weekly real estate tip series, our top real estate agent, real estate professional, and entrepreneur podcast interviews, plus a ton of other free tips, resources, tools I give you to explode your business and your life. So again, check us out at gsdmode.com. Thank you so much for watching. Keep kicking ass, and I'll see you next time. Peace.